You know, when it comes to steroids and social media and social influencers, and not even social influencers, doctors, nurses, physicians, physical therapists, even professions that deal in healthcare area, all I hear about is side effect A, side effect B, negative side effects. Here's one or two positive side effects. I'm sick and tired of learning and hearing about side effects. I know those. I've heard every single social influencer talk about it. Those who have taken it, those who don't take it, those who ego lift, those who do everything based on science and Harvard research during their list. I've heard it all. I'm sick and tired of people yapping about, depression, anxiety, and, how it stunts their growth and how it makes them angry 24/7. Been there, done that, watched the video, learned that. I want to know, why do people still take them, right? Why do we think people still take them? Why do people keep joking about them? I want to learn more about like the social aspect, right? From users and non-users. Why do people think the way they think, view steroids the way they view steroids? That's what I want to know. I want to pry into people's brains and figure out why they think the way they do. None of this side effect stuff. I'm going out and I'm prying into their brains, in gyms, in public areas, and I'm going to learn more about what they think about the epidemic that is steroid culture.
Be the one in a million that have different results or don't have these certain side effects. That's why I feel like a lot of teens and adolescents that do hop on these steroids, they really don't know what they're getting into because they just don't understand consequences just quite yet.
I think a big thing is probably like how you view yourself and how you like look at yourself, like your body image is probably a big thing behind it. Like a lot of people think they see other people taking it and they think like, I need to get this big, like I want to get to however big they are. It's like a big thing behind that. And like they see a lot of like fitness influencers who take it and they want to be like them because that's who they see and who they look up to.
I think the biggest reason is like you're not seeing a lot of progression with your own physique. Like if you hit a plateau with either like lifting your weight or you feel like your physique's not expanding, a lot of people are going to turn to outside sources for that kind of bump to get you to the next level. So definitely the culture around it right now. I think it's become a lot more normalized in our society, especially on like Instagram and TikTok. You see all these big influencers who claim to be natural and they're promoting these products that are natural, quote unquote, but they are steroids. So I think the culture has definitely changed a lot, and there's a lot of pressure around people to try steroids. So
I think a lot of times people are maybe not seeing progress in the gym and they think that's the only option when there's actually a lot of different ways that you can do it. I think sometimes it's outside like points of view. So on social media, we see everybody who's definitely like portraying only the best parts of it. So they think that maybe they'll look like that other person.
I think probably more blind than more like knowing actually, because like let's say if I were to take it, I wouldn't know a lot about it. I just know like a couple baseline behind it. Know like there are negatives behind it, but I don't really know much about it. So I think more blind than actually knowing about it.
I feel like most of the time when it has to do with a negative side effect of things, they're just completely unaware. They're just like taking it. I feel like they're just taking it because they see someone else like doing it and they're like, oh, they've had like these great positive things happen to them. But then they just take it because they know about the positive things, not the negative things.
I think there's still a stigma, but I think it's different because when it comes to like average gym goers, they probably shouldn't be using steroids. But if that's what you're committing your whole lifestyle to and you choose to do that, I think that's a little bit different.
It was more stigmatized, I feel like, because there'd probably be like less things to test if someone actually was using it. But now it's more like we test you now. I feel like.
I don't think it should be mixed in with like people that are like natural per se, because I play soccer myself. And like if someone were to take PEDs or something along those lines, and like they'd get an edge up on everyone else. So I think there should be be a punishment involved, whether it's like suspension for a certain amount of games or like, I don't know if getting kicked out of like all competition is the right thing to do or not, but I think there should be some sort of punishment involved.
I definitely think if they are 100% sure and know about the consequences of what steroids are, I feel like they should be put into a different division or a different subcategory to where they don't have this super high testosterone or, the super high boost that just puts them way higher than the average competition that they're going against. And like, from my experience, there's open powerlifting to where you can, hook on those steroids, but depending on what kind of federation, but something similar along the lines of that, just for different sports. I mean, it's not a universal thing just quite yet, but I think if you're young and you're taking those things, just make sure that you're going into it 100% knowing about the consequences and all the negative health effects. And if you're serious about it, still want to pursue that route, I don't think you should be shunned or kicked off teams or have these super heavy penalties that will follow you for the rest of your life, but instead go into an open category to where that's more, less frowned upon and more accepted, because then you find people that also do the same thing might experience different health risks, and it's just a different community that's there instead of being shunned away from others. No, I mean, I've definitely joked about it amongst my buddies, but it's something that I never want to really try just because I do know about those things and I don't really like the idea of doing that. It's going to possibly give me negative health effects that have conflicts with the relationships that I have with people, friends, family, just co-workers, things like that. I just don't want that erratic behavior, and I know not all steroids are like that, but I know the risks, and I just don't feel comfortable with going that route, and I'd rather just stay natural as I can possibly be.
Going off of the last question, would you take steroids? I asked someone this during an interview, outside of the recording ones, because he wanted to remain anonymous, didn't really want his face shown, not name. But I asked him, would you take steroids? Would you ever take steroids? Initially, he goes, no, because he's an athlete. That makes sense, right? Can't take them if you're an athlete. But then he goes, if I wasn't an athlete, I'd be more compelled to do it. Or I guess, or rather, he said he wasn't against it. But then he was also like, steroids, if they never had the side effects, but they were just socially unacceptable and illegal or whatever, he wouldn't. He was like, he would take them because no side effects. If they had side effects, but they weren't illegal, you can get them wherever. He said even then he was more likely to do the initial response, which was just like maybe if he wouldn't be against it, which made me think. Because now we're done with all the interviews, we explored some of the steroid culture in the current economy. And I think that's what it comes down to, is current economy in the current world. Just like his answers to would he take steroids, they kept changing depending on, how he viewed it, depending on his scenario, depending on the environment. And that's kind of what the steroid culture is, right? I mean, it's much different than it was 100 years ago, if they even had it 100 years ago. It's much different than it was 10 years ago. And it'll probably be much different 10, 20, maybe 100 years from now. I remember someone once saying in a video, might be Jesse James West, I might be quoting him, but I think it's a good quote. People used to be on steroids and hide the fact that they were to get socially accepted. Nowadays, people won't take steroids and will lie and pretend they are to get socially accepted and, more famous. But I think all it comes down to is steroid culture is forever changing. How it is now is not how it was then. It's not how it's going to be later. What you may answer to one question today may have a different response from you 20 years from now. And it might have had a different response from you if this was 10 years ago when you were younger. So I guess that's it, right? That's just all there is for steroid culture. Hmm. Maybe. Maybe, just maybe, I might just hop on. Why not, right? It's forever changing. Maybe by the time they notice, it'll be way more acceptable. Who knows?